We are now getting to the point in the list of victims here where information is becoming more and more scarce. This really breaks my heart because the whole point of this series is to highlight the victims as real people, for us to get to know them as much as we possibly can. In many cases, I haven't been able to come up with a simple snapshot of them so that we can see their faces. As always, if any further information comes to light, I will add it later, and I fully expect that once the financial crimes trial is in full swing, we're going to learn lots and lots about these people. Actually, at this time, I'd like to put out a call to any locals who might know any of these people or their friends and loved ones to please reach out to me here. If there's something they would like known about them, I would be happy to do that. Tonight, I want to introduce the case of the estate of Sandra Taylor and her personal representative and mother, Elise Mallory. I unfortunately do not have a picture of either of them to share with you, but I'm going to share with you what's known right now. And also, a quick peek at one of the main reasons information on these cases is so very hard to find. This is The Other 55% with Cassidy O'Connell, because we don't know the half of it, and this time, we probably never will. On this season of The Other 55%, the trial that consumed the entire true crime community and beyond.
And I could see his brain on
generating millions of dollars in fees. That was not enough for you.
I know you have to see Paul and Maggie during the night times when you're attempting to go to sleep. I'm sure they come and visit you.
All these people on these two exhibits, these were real people that needed this money, is that correct?
I'm sure they did.
Somebody going to check him?
Yes, sir. They've already checked them.
They did check him?
Yes, sir.
That's official that they're dead?
Yes, sir. That's what it looks like.
Oh, and it might not have been you. It might have been the monster you become.
The murder trial is over, and the next trial for his financial crimes is about to begin. We've heard the number of indictments. Let's go beyond the numbers. As Creighton said, these are real people. Let's hear their stories. Tonight's case involves Sandra Taylor, a Beaufort woman killed by a drunk driver in Colleton County in 2019 when he crashed his pickup truck while she was his passenger. The truck was traveling south on Ace Basin Parkway near the community of Green Pond around 10 p.m. on June 1, 2019. When it slipped off the right shoulder, the 29-year-old driver, DeAndre Cohen, overcorrected and lost control. The 1998 Chevrolet truck slid sideways, then returned to the roadway and hit the median cable, causing it to overturn several times as it entered the northbound lanes and rolled over a 2006 convertible Porsche, injuring the driver, 54-year-old Gregory Marshall. Though Sandra and DeAndre were wearing seatbelts, they were both partially ejected and trapped in the wreckage. First responders used hand tools and rescue tools to force open the driver's door and extricated the driver of the truck in only about 15 minutes. DeAndre suffered multiple traumatic injuries, was quickly treated at the scene, then transported to the trauma center at MUSC in critical condition. The driver of the Porsche also suffered multiple injuries and was transported to Colleton Medical Center. 35-year-old Sandra Taylor, however, was pronounced dead at the scene and was taken away by the coroner. When Cohen was released from the hospital on the afternoon of June 3rd, he was taken into custody and transported to the Colleton County Detention Center to await a bond hearing on the charge of felony DUI resulting in death. Here's a clip from Channel 2 Colleton County News.
This afternoon, a woman is dead and 2 people are injured after a 2-car crash in Colleton County. According to the county's fire and rescue, crews arrived on Ace Basin Parkway and found a badly damaged Chevrolet pickup overturned on the road and a small Porsche off the right side of the highway in a ditch. Both people in the pickup were trapped inside. Officials think that truck overcorrected and lost control, going over the median, flipping over and hitting the Porsche. The driver of the Porsche and pickup were taken to the hospital. The passenger of the pickup was pronounced dead at the scene.
Sandra's grieving mom, Elise Mallory, as personal representative for Sandra's estate, filed a wrongful death suit and was unfortunate enough to choose Alex Murdaugh as her lawyer. Again, as with all of Alex's victims, we see someone at their most vulnerable point in life. grieving in a way that only a parent who has lost their child can ever understand. And yet Alex, instead of seeing her with eyes of pity, he only saw an opportunity to steal her money. He filed her petition, and I have a copy of that here. As I mentioned at the beginning, finding information on these clients has proved very difficult. Even when I searched this case number to find who the judge was, it still shows up as pending, though the case was settled and the money dispersed on November 30th, 2020. The wording of this document gives us some insight as to why that might be. Number 4 on page 2 reads, "Petition requests that the record of this petition and the proceedings for approval thereof be sealed, and that the matter and court files be kept confidential and not disclosed, made public, disseminated, released, or otherwise referenced, alluded to, or suggested to any person in any manner whatsoever, unless required by a court of competent jurisdiction." Wow. Now, I understand sometimes attorneys want to protect their clients for different reasons, but this over-the-top wording for a wrongful death due to DUI for people who knew each other that was in public newspapers and on TV, it just seems a little extra to me. But now that we know what Alex was up to, how he even had Judge Carmen Mullen and disgraced former attorney Corey Fleming help him hide his settlements, we can see the probable reason for all of this secrecy. Did he plan to steal her money too? Well, let's take a look at his indictment for this. That Richard Alexander Murdaugh in Colleton County on or about November 30, 2020 did willfully, unlawfully, and feloniously convert to his own use with intention to permanently deprive the owner of possession, goods to which he had been entrusted by the owner for the care, keeping, and possession, to wit, while relying on his prestige and reputation as a lawyer and the trust of the personal representative of the estate of Sandra Taylor, who had come to Murdaugh for help. Murdaugh did convince the personal representative that the total wrongful death recovery would only be $30,000, and that Murdaugh was not even going to take a fee because the recovery was so low. Instead of paying any money at all into the estate, from a recovery of over $180,000, Murdaugh paid his legal fees and some minor expenses, and then caused an estate of Sandra Taylor settlement proceeds check for $152,866 and made out to Forge to be dispersed. Skipping down. However, Murdaugh then deposited the $152,866 estate of Sandra Taylor settlement proceeds check, which was supposed to be compensation to the estate of Sandra Taylor for her wrongful death, into a bank account he had created under the name Richard A. Murdaugh, sole proprietor, DBA or doing business as Forge. Murdaugh had created this bank account for the purpose of misappropriating funds belonging to others, with the illusion that the money was being paid to the legitimate company, Forge Consulting LLC. Murdaugh instead breached the personal representative's trust and converted the money to his own personal use, for expenses including but not limited to a credit card payment, cash, payments to family, and checks written to associates. So the indictment showed us that Murdaugh reportedly told Taylor's mother that she would only receive a mere $30,000 as a settlement, and that it was so low that he was going to do her this great favor and not take any fees. We can imagine the scene of a broken-hearted mother who had occupied her time distracting her grief by working on this wrongful death settlement claim. Here it came to an end. How emotional must she have been on that day when, although settling the case was always the goal, loved ones often fall into deeper grief when the trials are over and they find that justice and winning doesn't really bring the sense of relief that they had hoped that it would. Also, without the fight to keep them going, they're confronted face to face with the full weight of their grief. In that mindset, as she looked up at Alex and he looked down at all of her grief, a ghost of the woman she once was. Maybe he worked up a tear, or at least wiped his eyes and pretended there was a tear, just like we saw in court. But he convinced her that he was there for her, that he had done the best he could, and that he couldn't possibly take any of that blood money. How grateful she must have felt. How taken care of she must have felt. Maybe she thought her daughter was blessing her from somewhere else, as many people choose to believe in situations like this. No doubt, she told her family and friends about this large man with an even larger heart who had taken pity on her in her grief. Little did she know that the actual figure was really over $180,000, and that the gentle giant was actually a real-life monster who was speeding to the bank to cash her money and spend it on drugs, credit cards, family members, and God knows what else. This is the real Alex Murdaugh. May all of these victims get their justice swift and fair while Alex rots in prison where he belongs. I'll be back with a new episode soon. This is Cassidy O'Connell saying stay well and stay tuned.